Welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast, where we believe sport can give you the freedom to be your best. All too often, the fear of failure takes the fun out of the game, and we're here to help you discover real joy and freedom to compete your best. I'm your host, Olympic gold medalist Laura Wilkinson. I'm especially excited for today's guest because he just happens to be a friend of mine and a fellow Houstonian. Two-time Olympic medalist Jonathan Horton is on today telling us about his 28-year-long gymnastics career. He shares about the exact moment that his Olympic dreams crystallized in his mind, the underdog story of his first Olympic Games, and how that compared to what happened at his second Olympics. He also talks about how difficult it was to eventually retire and let go of what he loved and ask himself the terrifying question, what now? It's a good one, so let's dive on in. Jonathan Horton, welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast. I'm so stoked that you're with us today.
Thank you. Excited to be here with you guys.
Fellow Houstonian, so it makes me proud. Now, for those listening that may not know your background, tell us how you got into gymnastics.
So, before I do that, I had a long journey as a gymnast, just retired from 28 years of being a part of the sport. It was amazing, and I wouldn't change anything for the world, but I actually love telling people the exact story of how I got in. So I started when I was 4, and anybody that follows me knows this ridiculous story and knows that I haven't enhanced it for entertainment. It is what it is. My mom took me shopping when I was 4 years old to a Target, and she lost me in the middle of the store. And I was a super rambunctious ADHD kid bouncing off the walls. I still kind of am. But I always joke that I was that kid with the monkey backpack and the leash. You ever seen one of those?
Yes.
Anyways, my mom didn't have it on me that day, and I took off, and she couldn't find me. And 10 minutes goes by until finally the manager came up to her and said, "Ma'am, calm down. I found your son." And I had climbed a support beam in the middle of the store, 25 feet to the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
I was just hanging out up there, and I vaguely remember being at the top of the pole, looking down, thinking, "Hey, this is really cool." And anyway, so I came down. My mom went home that night and told my dad, and he basically was like, "Wow, our son's a freak. We need to put him in gymnastics." And so they enrolled me into a small recreational gym the very next day. And 28 years later, I was still doing the sport.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I cannot imagine, because I'm a mom, and if my kids did that, I would probably faint. Like, I can't even imagine. And you like wrote a garage door or something too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, you were full of crazy stuff.
I've done a lot of crazy stuff. My mom ran outside. My mom was a stay-at-home. And so, she ran out in the garage, she hit the button, and then realized she forgot something in the house. And I went up to the garage door and grabbed it and rode up the garage door. She said she came out like 2-3 minutes later, and I was just hanging there. And I think I was 2 or 3 years old. And
wow,
I'm impressed with that myself. I'm like, no, hanging for 2-3 minutes, that's hard.
I know that's impressive. Wow. So cool. I mean, and you started so young, but obviously it was very fitting. So I'm assuming at that age, the Olympics weren't exactly on your mind. At what point did you realize that you could really kind of accomplish great things in gymnastics?
Yeah. So I wasn't the most gifted and talented kid in the world. Like I said, I started when I was 4. I didn't start competing until I was 6. And I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the fastest. I'm a notoriously slow learner, and nobody really took me serious. And it wasn't until I was 10 years old that things kind of shifted for me, because I saw my first Olympics in 1996. And in 96, I'll never forget watching specifically the women's gymnastics team. I'm sure you remember as well, watching the Magnificent Seven win the gold medal and beat Russia. And I was just glued to the screen watching Carrie Strug run down a vault runway on a badly injured ankle, securing the gold medal for Team USA. And I was so inspired by that moment. And I remember seeing those women stand on the medal podium and have their medals placed over their necks, watch the flag go up, listen to the national anthem play. And at that moment, I kind of fully grasped what the Olympics was. I remember telling myself, like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And it was that moment mixed with seeing some of my heroes on the men's side of gymnastics. And I remember going back into the gym the very next day with this new sense of purpose, this new kind of why. Here's why I'm going to do this. I want to win a medal for my country. And it drastically changed how I focused every day. And next thing I knew, I was learning rapidly. And it just that I everything goes back to the 96 Olympic Games because I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was so inspiring. I mean, I remember that moment. Who doesn't remember that moment? It
Yeah.
was so incredible. But I love that, like, when you went back, you noticed such a difference, like, because you had a why, you had a
Yeah.
reason and a purpose. Like, that's just so cool.
Yep.
Was there a specific moment that you realized you could actually make it to the top? Not just that you wanted to, but when you thought you could?
Yeah, it's so weird. I write about this. Well, I'm currently writing about this in an autobiography. Shameless plug here. But
We like those.
yeah. So I'll be launching my autobiography probably by the end of the year, and it's one of the things I talk about is I'm a man of faith, and I know that you're a woman of faith as well. And I always had this just feeling like I know this is going to happen. Like I know one day this dream's going to come true. God's got my back, and one of these days I'm going to become an Olympian. But the reality didn't fully set in until 2004 when I made the Olympic trials. I was the youngest person to qualify for the Olympic trials in '04. I knew I didn't have a shot.
How old were you?
I was 18.
18. Nice.
Yeah. And I knew that there was absolutely no way that I was going to make the Olympics because I was like, I barely squeaked into the trials.
Right.
But just to have the opportunity to compete there with some of the guys, like I got to compete with the guy, like somebody that was on the 96 Olympic team was Blaine Wilson. And he's like my hero. And I got to compete at the Olympic trials in '04 with him. And so that was super cool. And then I kind of knew I was the upcoming guy for the '08 games. So in my mind, I was like, okay, 4 years of everything you've got to make this next team.
That's so cool. It's amazing how just being in those moments and getting that experience can make such a difference.
Yeah.
And right after that, I mean, you were recruited by a lot of colleges, but you ultimately landed on University of Oklahoma, and you won 6 NCAA titles, 18 All-American Idols, All-American Idols, All-American Honors, not the TV show. You broke a record that was previously set by Bart Connor, total legend, and your OU record for the titles and honors still stands today, right?
It does, but not for long. There's a young guy named Yul Moldauer who is about to shatter all my records. He is like the upcoming superstar, 2-time national champion right now, and he's just so good. And I'm so glad he's at Oklahoma representing the Sooners. And he's gonna take over those titles. I mean, he's just so good. I love watching him.
That's so cool. Well, what was the college experience like for you?
Oh, college was, of course, where I became the best gymnast that I could be. I learned so much in college, and that's when I really hit my peak. But I think the most valuable lesson that I got from college was how to compete for more than myself. I'm the first person to admit that my freshman year at Oklahoma, I was a cocky little arrogant turd. And people used to ask me, I remember they'd say, hey, so what are your goals at Oklahoma? And I'd say, I want to go be 4-time all-around national champion. And before I knew it, all of the like 8 or 9 seniors that were there, they were like, no, that's not your goal. And I'm like, well, no, that is my goal. And they're like, no, it's not. And you're going to figure this out real quick. And so they had to slap some sense into me to realize that what was more special, what was more important was to compete for my team. And winning the national title that year as a team, I didn't win the all around, but we won the national title. Once I got to stand on the podium with those guys who became my brothers and my family, everything changed. And I realized I couldn't care less what I do individually as long as I come through for the guys standing around me. And I actually, my whole mentality shifted, and I stopped being able to kind of compete for myself at that point.
Oh, wow.
And I started struggling on the individuals, competitions. I'd go to world championships and have these knockout competitions for the team. And then in the individual stuff, I wasn't very good. It was like, couldn't get my adrenaline up. I couldn't get myself excited because I just wanted to compete with my team. And I think that's something that I would teach some of the young upcoming kids today is the power that you have when you care more about the people that you're performing for rather than yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool. Oh gosh, so many amazing lessons there. But I remember that too because I competed in college at University of Texas. I mean, we can still be friends even though you're sooner. But I mean, diving is a very individual sport too. And
Yeah.
but there it was the swimming and diving team, and we were always competing together for the titles and stuff. And it was such a game changer when you have like all of a sudden like 40 swimmers sitting there cheering you on, and what you do really matters to the end result. Like it's pressure, but then it's like this power behind you too, and it's a really
Yeah.
cool, but so interesting that it also affected what you were doing individually. Well, right after your collegiate season, I mean, you qualified for the 2008 Beijing Olympics, so you must have had your individual somewhat together there as well. I mean, was that just a dream come true? You made that team. You know, you're kind of following in the footsteps of these 1996 Olympians that you watched on TV. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. And there's not really a good word to describe. I know that you know what it feels like as well to qualify for the Olympic team. But, I won the Olympic trials and I secured my spot onto the team. And I actually thought it was a little more nerve wracking competing at the trials than the actual Olympics.
I'd
Just
agree with that. Yep.
just to get there, because the dream is to become an Olympian. And obviously we all want to win medals at the Olympics, but just to get that first, like, you know, kind of, I don't want to say burden, it's not a burden, but that weight off your shoulders of knowing, okay, like goal number one completed. I'm now an Olympian.
Right, because you can't win a medal unless you make the Olympic team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just to have a great competition and make the squad, it was a relief. And then it was like the rest of that, going to the Olympics and competing was just kind of icing on the cake. And it was just the whole process. I kind of wish I had taken it a little slower and soaked it all in more, because it happened so fast. It's just a blur in my memory now. But I mean, it was incredible.
That's so cool. Well, I remember there being like a lot of, because I was on the 2008 team too. That was my last Olympic Games. And I remember there was kind of a lot of skepticism and like doubt around the men's gymnastics team because of injuries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was that a lot of pressure for you guys? Because I mean, tell us like what that was like and how it actually turned out.
Yeah. So it's funny because there was a lot of pressure and there's some moments of panic, but I'll tell you why that all happened, because we were not sorry guys, I hate to say it, but we were not any good. If my teammates are listening to me right now, they'll admit we were not a medal worthy team. Uh, Um, and in 2 years before the Olympics, we went to the World Championships, and mainly because of me, we finished in 13th place, which was the worst performance of any U.S. team in history. And I fell 6 times, and no individual competitor from the U.S. has ever made as many mistakes as I did at a World Championships that day. And it was, I actually almost quit the sport after that, because so many people um, really lost their trust in me, and my teammates were angry, and my coaches were angry, and I was supposed to be this rising star who just bombed at the World Championships. Anyways, so that was 2 years before the Olympics, and then I make the Olympic team in 2008, and the Hom brothers, because we were so bad, had come out of retirement to help us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Paul and Morgan Hom, rock stars from the gymnastics world from the 2000, 2004 Olympics, who won several medals and are the most successful gymnasts to ever come out of our country. Um, they both make the Olympic team, but then 2 months before the Olympics, Paul breaks his hand and we have to bring in a reserve athlete. And so we brought in a guy named Raj Bhavsar. And then the night before we competed in the preliminary round in Beijing, Morgan Hom breaks his ankle doing floor. And so then we bring in another guy named Alexander Artemev. So now we've got this squad of guys that were almost the same team from the 2006 World Championships representing us at the '08 Olympics. And everybody was like, oh no, like not these guys again. And so we went from a medal contending team to a group of guys that no one thought we'd even be top 8 and make it into the next round of competition. And we ended up placing 7th in the prelims. And so we were stoked. We get to go compete again. And I'll never forget the night before the finals at the Olympics Beijing. Everybody was kind of panicking. We just didn't want to we didn't want to look bad. We didn't want to look like the jokes of the Olympics. Like there was an article written by the Associated Press that said, we look like a bunch of rookie backup players. And we didn't want to prove them right. And so we went out. I don't know if you remember how well you remember the village, but there was a balcony of all of the rooms. And we went out on the balcony, and our team, all 6 of us, we just like poured our hearts out to each other. Guys were like, I'm scared. A couple of the guys were like, I don't know how to get this routine. I fell on it yesterday. And all of us just kind of let it all out. And we just poured our souls into each other. And I can't even explain the moment, because we all realized how special we were to each other and how bad we wanted to succeed. And we just kind of made the decision, hey guys, no matter what, let's put on the red, white, and blue, the USA on our uniform, and let's just go perform and give it everything we have. And no matter what, we're going to walk out of there with our heads up, our chests held high, and we're going to represent the United States of America at the Olympic Games. And we got to the arena the very next day, and we just caught on fire. Like, something special happened. And I remember when I returned home after the Olympics, I wanted to watch the footage, and they weren't even going to show us. They were showing, I don't remember what sport they were showing, but Bob Costas comes on the screen, like frantic. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to tune into the men's gymnastics right now. They're going into their 3rd rotation of competition, and they're currently sitting in 1st place. And so we like rocked the house, and we were like nailing routines and sticking our landings. And I remember the arena was 40,000 people, and 90% of the fans there were Chinese, and we got a standing ovation. They started chanting USA.
Wow.
Yeah. So going into the final event, which was pommel horse, which was our worst event, we were winning the meet. We were beating China and Japan, which is ridiculous. And we knew, like, we were terrible on pommel horse. We knew that we were going to drop back. We weren't going to be able to hold on to 1st and 2nd. But we were like, guys, if we can just hold on to bronze right now, this will be unbelievable. And our final competitor, who was a reserve guy, Alexander Artemet, he came in to do one event, pommel horse. And he had to wait. He was cold, and it was the very end of the competition. He killed it. He did amazing. And we held off Germany by just a few tenths, and we were able to win bronze. And, I have people all the time, they're like, oh man, it probably hurts to have lost gold and silver, huh? I'm like, no, we didn't lose anything. We won bronze.
Yeah.
And
it was
just
fight for bronze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well fought.
Yeah, we fought for it, and we got to stand on the podium, and my dream came true, and I got to have a medal placed over my neck. I watched the American flag rise up. Yeah, I had to listen to the Chinese national anthem, but you know what? Like, it was a spectacular moment with my brothers standing, by my side.
Oh, that's so awesome. And how was your individual performance?
Yeah, so I actually didn't do too great in the all-around final, which was just a couple days later. I ended up 9th. Actually, the separation from 2nd place to 9th place where I was only 3 tenths, which is like nothing.
Holy cow.
In the all-around final, I think I definitely could have won another medal, but I, just made a few little errors, but I was just still riding such a high from winning the bronze. And then I qualified into the high bar final, again in 7th place, not knowing I'd have a shot at winning a medal on high bar. And I made the decision against everyone else's better judgment to just throw the kitchen sink on high bar. I did a brand new routine that I'd never tried before, and my coach was like, don't do it. And so I threw this crazy routine that I tried like 10 times in the practice facility, and I fell all 10 times. And I nailed it. I caught all my major release elements, did the hardest dismount in the world, did a triple twisting double layout, and almost stuck my landing. And I was, 0.005 away from gold. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like it was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, but that was, again, like my greatest moment in my career was winning bronze. And, the silver medal on high bar was cool, but it was nothing compared to winning with my team.
Oh, that's so cool. I love the community aspect to it and how much that has done for you. It's so neat. At Hope Sports, we know that you want sport to be fun, but in order to do that, you need to compete with freedom. The problem is, you believe that everything hinges on your score, performance, or medal count. But we believe that athletes should be able to experience joy regardless of their win-loss record. Because sport is more about the process of who you're becoming than the end result. We understand what it's like when the pressure to perform exceeds the passion for the game, which is why hundreds of athletes rediscovered their love for the game with Hope Sports. We have a workshop coming up November 15th through 17th in San Diego, California, and you do not want to miss it. It's so easy to get involved. Go to hopesports.org, sign up for the November workshop, and win like never before. So sign up today and come figure out what you've been missing. It could be the key you need to find success in your career. Now, fast forward a few years, at 2011 World Champs, you took kind of a bad landing on vault. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I had been training a new vault, which is one of the hardest vaults in the world. It's called a dragalescu. It's actually, you hit the vault, you flip 3 times, and then you do a half turn at the end. And when I hit the vault in the meets, I knew I didn't make good contact, but it was in the middle of the World Championship, so I went for it anyways, and I landed short. And I ended up breaking 2 bones and tearing a ligament in my foot. The doctor that repaired my foot was like, look, you've got 9 months before the 2012 games. This is about a year to a year and a half recovery. And so she was like, I'm sorry to tell you that. And I was like, no, not okay. Like, tell me how we get this thing healed faster. Like, I'm going to compete in 2012. I was on crutches for 8 weeks, and I went into like this super aggressive physical therapy that was extremely painful. And I just kind of treated my physical therapy like it was another event in gymnastics. Like, I'm going to be the best in the world at physical therapy. And 6 months later, I was doing floor routines. And I remember I made the Olympic team in 2012. And every time I tumbled, took a landing, did anything, I mean, it hurt like crazy, but it's just kind of what I was willing to do to compete again.
Well, I can tell. I mean, I know you told the media, like kind of after that happened, you said that it was, going to make you a stronger gymnast because you'd have an opportunity to now get stronger on the other 4 events. Like and I love that you went into PT with that attitude of like, this is another event. I'm going to be the best at it that I can. Like, you just nose to the grindstone and you do it. Like, I love that. And it paid off. But like, what was the London experience like? Because I know it was kind of a complete flip from what happened in 2008, where in 2012, they were saying like, this is maybe the first men's gymnastics team that could win gold since like 1984, and that's like a whole different kind of pressure. How was that just different from Beijing?
London gave me a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth after it was all over, just because we were, again, in 2008 we weren't any good, and then in 2012 we were by far the best team in the world. And we had this young group of guys. I was the oldest person on the team by 6 years. I was the grandpa of the team. Everybody else was like 19 and 20. I was 26. And it was a combination of just the young upcoming guys. And I guess I don't want this to sound like I'm high and mighty, but like my leadership, I guess. It's just a good combination. The group was amazing. And in prelims, we won by like 5 points. It was a landslide.
Oh, wow.
We beat China. We beat Japan, like everybody. And so we were so excited. We were like, guys, this is about to happen. Like, we're about to become Olympic champions. This hasn't been done since 84, like you said. And the day we competed, it was just a 180 turnaround. It was just like you could see the panic on everyone's faces. And I tried to rally the guys. Everything fell apart from event 1. We had, I think, 2 falls on floor. Then we went to pommel horse and had 2 falls there. And after the second event, we knew it was over. We had guys that were just like in tears on the floor at the Olympic Games, and I just tried to console the team. But I almost think it was kind of the equivalent to what I experienced in 2006 and 2006, when I went into this competition feeling like I'm about to do great things and I've risen to the top and I'm prepared, I'm ready. But in reality, I kind of let my foot off the gas pedal, and I didn't know how to control my emotions and the situation. And it was just a young group of guys in 2012, and I'm never going to blame anyone for it, but they kind of had their 2006 World Championship moment at the Olympics. And, it made every one of those guys better for it, because the years after that, they were winning world medals and just doing like amazing gymnastics. But yeah, it stunk, but sometimes a bad performance jumps up and bites you at the worst time, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, man. So what happened after London? Take us through after London, because you were in a lot of pain there. Like, what happened with your foot, and where did you go from there?
Yeah, after London is when my career started nearing its end. I would have loved to have made another Olympic team. I would have been 30 years old, which is ancient in gymnastics. But in 2012, every time I did a ring routine, I felt like I was going to throw up. My shoulder was just killing me, the amount of pain that I had. So after the Olympics was over, we went on a post-Olympic tour, did a bunch of shows around the country. And then I got an MRI, and the MRI showed that my shoulder was just destroyed. And so I had major reconstructive shoulder surgery on my right shoulder. And my surgeon told me, he was like, this could be a career ender. But again, like, I'm hard headed and I wasn't totally okay with that. And so I came back from the injury and regained my full strength, range of motion, everything. And I was even surprised
Wow.
by it. And I was doing gymnastics again by like 6 or 7 months in. But I wasn't full strength again for about a year. And just as I was about to go compete in my first meet back, I was at the Olympic Training Center, and I did a skill on parallel bars, went crooked, and the P bar hit me just perfect right in the armpit where your pec attaches, and I tore my pec. Um,
Jeez.
so again, like, I'm like, okay, what the heck? And so I have surgery on my pec, and something about that injury, just everything changed. I started struggling to get my range of motion back in that shoulder. I couldn't get my strength back. And it was like the back-to-back injuries is what kind of...
Was that the same shoulder, or was that the different shoulder?
It was my left shoulder. So
Okay.
now I've had surgery on both sides.
Oh, geez. Well, at least you're even now.
Yeah. So, it's like all of a sudden I just couldn't get stuff back. I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish what I started. I came here telling myself I'm going to be done in 2016, and I'm going to do that. So I kept pressing forward, and I actually got into the best shape of my entire career. 9 months before the Olympics in 2016, I went to another training camp, and I nailed everything. And I remember the national team coordinator came up to me and was like, dude, John, I can't believe after everything you've been through, you're back and better than I've ever seen you. And I remember leaving that camp thinking, like, I did it. Like, I went through all this stuff, and I felt like I was the best gymnast I've ever been at any point in my career at that moment. And I came home, and the very next day I walked into the gym for a light training session. And that's when on pommel horse, I was doing some basic stuff. I didn't even make a mistake. And I just felt like a zipper down on my left shoulder. Felt like it just opened up, and I felt this intense burn. And I knew at that moment that I had torn my shoulder again. That was my last day of pursuing the Olympics. So I ended up recovering from that surgery, and I actually officially retired and continued to train just because I couldn't get it out of my brain. And I officially stopped going into the gym and doing gymnastics when I was 32 years old, about a year and a half ago. So it was just hard to get out of my system. I wanted to keep going and seeing what I was capable of. I feel like you understand that yourself.
Totally. Obviously.
But yeah, I mean, the tail end of my career was tough. I spent a lot of time kind of down in the dumps, and somewhat hit rock bottom at one point. And I remember after my sixth and final surgery, which was my last shoulder surgery, I had 3 on my foot, 3 on my shoulders. I remember sitting on my couch in my sling after that surgery, popping pain pills, and watching my wife have to take care of our newborn daughter. And I couldn't even pick her up because I just had my surgery. And I was just like, what now? Like, what am I going to do now? And it was one of the hardest times of my life. But, through grace and faith and everything, I was able to pick myself up. And now I'm in one of the best places I've ever been in my life.
Wow. Sometimes I think you have to go through those things, right? To see that there is another side, that there is more to it, that you can go that low and then come back. And that's powerful. Hopefully that's a good example of some of the people listening, because sometimes when you get into that deep place, it's just dark and it's hard to climb your way out of.
Yeah.
Well, you also started doing something a little bit different before you were completely retired from gymnastics. I think it's called the American Ninja Warrior. You did 3 seasons on there, but you were still kind of competing and training, right? Like, how did that happen in all of this?
Yeah, I've actually done 5 seasons now on Ninja Warrior.
Oh, wow.
So I got into it in 2013. Actually, the first time I competed on the show was I think 2 months after my pec surgery.
Oh.
And my doctor was like, you're stupid, don't do it. And I was like, I got on the show, I got to try it. And so I went and I tried and I did terrible. Which is what's ironic is I was my first season on the show, I was currently the 7th ranked gymnast in the world on rings. And I went to Ninja Warrior and I fell on an obstacle called the ring toss. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's a blast. I got into Ninja just because I watched it on TV. And I thought it was a really cool show. And I thought, I'm an Olympic gymnast. I'm going to be so good at this. And it quickly humbled me. It's extremely challenging. 5 years later of doing it, I'm heading into my 6th season. It is crazy hard, and the athletes on that show they are athletes. I know it's a TV show and it's entertaining, but some of the best athletes I've ever met, just well-rounded, quick, powerful, strong, mentally strong people. And it's a great community of people that are kind of trying to reach this, what feels like sometimes unattainable goal of, going to the finals in Las Vegas, beating all 4 stages, winning the $1 million grand prize. Only one guy's done it in 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's really fun to watch. And my kids now think they can play on the outside of our playground equipment because, like walking on the roof and around the edges, because that's what Ninja Warriors do.
Yeah.
And it seems very fitting with how you were when you were little. So maybe this is really your, your true calling and your inner beast, right?
Well, I'm hoping that this coming season will be my season, because a lot like my gymnastics career, I've had very little success in the beginning. I made it to like the city finals and stuff like that, but all my buddies give me a hard time. I'm like one of the few people in my inner circle that haven't been to the Las Vegas finals. And they're all like, dude, you're an Olympian with medals. I can't believe you keep messing up. You haven't made the finals. I'm like, thanks, guys. Thanks for rubbing it in. So this coming year is my year.
That's good. I love it. Well, we will be cheering you on for sure. I love it. Well, now you published a book. Apparently you're writing another one now, but you published a book at the end of 2018 also called If I Had Known, Life Lessons from an Olympic Pro Athlete. What is that book about?
Yeah. So right when I retired, I actually got a call from Sports Illustrated, and I did an interview, and the guy in the middle of the interview asked me a question that really sparked the idea for the book. He said, "Hey man, now that you're retired, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you were a kid?" And I was like, I'm going to put some thought into that, because I'm not really sure. And so I went home and I started jotting some ideas down. Before I knew it, I had a book in front of me. And so I wrote it with young, ambitious kids in mind. They don't even need to be gymnasts or athletes, but just anybody with a dream. And it's just several different chapters. I think it's 18 chapters, and they're stories from my career and what I got from those moments. And so there's stuff in there, like I said, it's geared towards a younger crowd, but there's stuff in there about how to separate yourself from other athletes to stand out, when you're being recruited for colleges. There's stuff in there about diet, sleep, mindset, what was going through my mind as I bombed at the World Championships and how I came back from it. What was going through my mind when I, risked everything I could and went for the silver medal at the Olympics on high bar. So, I've had a lot of people read it and give me great reviews and said they really enjoyed it. And I've had kids reach out to me and say, man, I was about to quit gymnastics, or I was about to quit football, but I read your book and it's inspired me to keep going. And I think that was my goal behind it, just to give back to the young generation, where I didn't feel like I had anybody doing that for me growing up. And, I had support from my coaches and my parents, but I would have loved one of my Olympic heroes to write a book and say, hey, here's the handbook on how to be successful. Can't guarantee you're ever going to become an Olympian, but read this, it'll help. And that was my idea behind it.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And it sounds like you are just checking that goal right off your list too. That's awesome. I love that kids are
working. Yeah. Like I said, I'm working on the autobiography, and then on volume 2, maybe I'll write what I know now. Maybe that'll be my next book.
There you go. See, look at you. Now your brain is just going crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
And now you and your wife, Haley, have 2 kids, and they're both in gymnastics class while we're talking right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually sitting in the parking lot of my gymnastics facility because it's the quietest place in my life. And my kids are currently in the gym doing gymnastics. My daughter's 3, so she's in a little mom and me class. And then my son is 5, and he's actually being coached by my personal coach already.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if they're going to love gymnastics. They love it now, but I'm never going to push them or pressure them. My parents never pushed me. It's one of those sports. Like, I feel like most Olympic sports, there's got to be this deep, burning internal desire to do it. No one can force you to do it or you'll never be successful. It's like, I feel like Olympic sports, a lot of them, they, we don't get the high praise of like football, basketball, baseball. We truly do it not for fame or fortune. It's because we just love the sport. And we love the challenge.
So well said. Absolutely perfect. Well, with two gymnast parents, I think they're just kind of probably made for it. We'll see, like you said, what they love and fall in love with, but that's awesome. Well, tell us where we can grab a copy of your book and where we can follow you online to just continue to be encouraged and inspired by you.
Yeah, so people can follow me on first social media. I'm big on Instagram and Twitter, mainly Instagram. J Horton 11. 11 was my competition number.
Nice.
So also I've got a fan page on Facebook, just Jonathan Horton fan page. And then also my website is jonathanhorton.net. And if you want to purchase a book, just go to my website, jonathanhorton.net, and then click shop. I've got some gear, I've got some shirts and books. And if you want to buy a book, I have them personally. I'll sign them for you, ship them out myself, and you can have a copy of the book.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll make sure to link to all of those in the show notes so people can find you. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for just dropping a lot of great truth bombs for us today, and just giving us such great lessons, for being so vulnerable and telling us the goods and the bads of your story, just so that we know we're not alone and everybody has to walk through that. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's been a blast. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much to Jonathan for joining us, and from his daughter's gymnastics class, no less. I just love his story about his first Olympics, about that group of guys who weren't even expected to be in the running, and then they blew away the entire world. And that experience came out of a beautiful moment of vulnerability, that they all just stood around and honestly shared their struggles and fears, and they figured out that they weren't alone, and that they had the support of each other no matter what. If that isn't an example of value-based performance mindset, then I don't know what is. It's just awesome. If you're interested in learning more about what value-based performance mindset is and how you can engage with it in your own career, then be sure to check out the work that Hope Sports is doing. Consider coming on a trip or joining the High Performance Workshop in November. You can find more details on hopesports.org and down in the show notes. Tune in next week to hear from NASCAR driver Michael McDowell and how a terrible crash made him a household name. I'm your host, Laura Wilkinson. Thanks for listening. This podcast is produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media. For more information on Hope Sports and to access the complete archives, please visit hopesports.org.